Hi, everybody. We're grateful you're with us today. Thank you so much. We've got a great guest this morning with us. Dustin, say hi so you come up on the camera.
Hey everybody, am I popping up? I hope so.
Oh, so we're with Dustin Svendsen this morning. Now, Dustin and I have been talking. Dustin's got a lot going on. A lot of it is applicable not only to Dustin himself, but to us as appraisers as well. Now, first of all, we're going to congratulate Dustin and his wife on their impending, the birth of their son. It's impending. It's going to be in April of 2025. So we congratulate Dustin on that and his wife. She's going to do most of the work. And Dustin, you had posted something on LinkedIn about book sharing. And let's start with that. You and I were just talking about that before we hit the record button. Explain to us what's going on with this book sharing, its purpose, what you think the benefits are from it, etc.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Absolutely. And first, just let me have a moment to take it in. I'm a little starstruck, Tim. I've finally made it. I've arrived. I've made your podcast. I feel like I am now on the upper echelon of appraisers. So I'm thankful for your time. Thanks for having me. And let me answer your question. The book sharing idea. So I got a whole shelf full of books. My grandpa, when he passed away, left me a bunch of the classics from Reader Digest, and so I started reading them. And what I've noticed as I've read them, and then I was lucky enough to also have Jeff Morley and Mark Thorett, and they gave me some book ideas. And so I was able to get to those books. And what I realized is the more that I read, the more I was able to break away from the fixed mindset and into a growth mindset. And so what I'm trying to do through the book sharing is one, not just leave a book set on my shelf as some sort of trophy that's never going to be read again and that nobody else is going to gain that knowledge from. But I'm trying to break the appraisal industry from a fixed mindset. Slowly but surely, obviously, we're not all that way. And one thing we're going to get is some negative comments, I'm sure, when I say these things, because the people who watch your show and the people who are linked are typically growth mindset individuals who are trying to move the industry forward in a positive way and also uphold the public trust. But we know for a fact when the GSEs look at our industry from the 30,000 foot high level, that not all appraisers are moving us forward. And a lot of us are still stuck in some old philosophies. We hear often when we talk to appraisers, I've been doing this for 20 years. Why would I change this? Why would I change that? I go back to kind of, I think I saw John Dingman use this, and I think I saw Jeff Moore use this pretty often, kind of an old dental shop. We were at a museum in Lake Geneva that had like an old dental shop set up from like 50 or 60 years ago. And I kind of thought about that. I was like, if you as a person would walk by this dental shop, would you walk in there to get your teeth done, or would you run to a more modern type of environment to get your teeth done? Well, the reality is the GSEs are not running, they're walking toward the more modern dental shops. I was at a convention probably early in my career. I would say right around the time the GSEs started doing the UAD data grab. So that's what, 2011, somewhere in the 2012, I think they started that. And they were talking convention in Las Vegas. The guy from Fannie Mae was standing up front saying, listen, we see $20 a square foot adjustment in mansions in Beverly Hills and $20 a square foot adjustments for $40,000 sales in Midwestern Wisconsin. He's like, that can't be right. He's like, there's no way every single one of them can be $20 a square foot, but they were, and that's what they were saying. So we still have that fixed mindset in our industry. And so the book idea was that if we start to share knowledge amongst ourselves and we all come together and we all work toward growth of our industry as a profession, and again, most of your listeners are probably are doing this already, so this is not me preaching to the choir, but it's clear from the GSE's messaging that as an industry and as a whole, we are not all moving forward, and a lot of us are stuck in old fixed ways. So sure, maybe you're coming up with a reasonable enough value conclusion, but is it the 50-year-old dental shop, or is it the new modern dental shop with a more accurate, more credible, more supported value conclusion?
The modern dental shop. That is a superb analogy. Thank you. Now, just off the top of your head, two books, please recommend them. What two books? Now, again, there's 75 books out there we could read, but if someone were to, you're standing at a bus stop, minding your own business, and somebody walks up and says, Dustin, what two books should I read to get started and that'll change my life today? What would you recommend?
Well, I'm going to go a little off industry and more personal here for you. So, the first book that I read that my grandpa gave me was called The Robe. I don't know if you know about this one. This is very much a religious book. It's the idea that The man who ended up killing Christ gets and puts on the robe, and it changes his whole life and his whole mindset, and everything changes. And one of my favorite lines from that book was, there's a boy in the book who helps feed a donkey or do something with a donkey. And mind you, I read this book 10 years ago. And they reward him for his good deed. And the man says to the lady, he says, don't reward him for his good deed, because then every time he does a good deed, he'll think he needs a reward. So he'll only do good deeds to receive a reward. And good deeds should be done just because that's who you are as a person. And that's what your mindset is you do good deeds because you're a human and your job is to take care of other humans. And so I hold that mindset very strongly. I am a believer. We don't have to go too far down this road, but I will tell you, thanks to that belief, I have been sober for 10 years. It's been very powerful and influence in my life. I'm also not totally convinced that I know facts. So I also like a lot. I have studied widely. I like the Buddhist philosophies. I like a lot of these other things. But I do believe in something going on out there much higher than just in everyday life. So that was book one, The Robe. If you're looking for some personal change, I also just finished David Goggins' book. Incredible type of a story of a man who just takes on everything and just keeps moving forward. I mean, absolutely incredible. I believe the book that I most recently read that I like a lot, and I just sent out as my first book club book, was called Deep Work. That book is about just getting away from social media, finding ways to quiet down so you can actually focus in and do deep work. So as appraisers to do appraisals, at some point in time, you have to lock in and do some deep work, right? There's some thought process that has to go into that final analysis, those final adjustments. You're shifting into system A to system two, system one, system two. I don't know if you read that book. That's another good book. Basically talking about how system one is kind of your autopilot. You can do these very simple tasks on an autopilot thing, but at some point in time, you have to shift into system two, which is kind of the deep thinking. And so that book just helps you talk about kind of like how to find that time to go into deep thought. And I think that's important in today's world where there's just so much noise around us at all time.
And noise, I agree. So the robe, which is more philosophical, more religious, more ethically oriented, and the other one was say the other one again.
Deep work.
Deep
That's a
work.
that's a good one.
And who's the author?
Oh boy, I wish I could tell you that off the top of my head. And I just sent the book out in the mail, so I don't have it readily available.
Okay. Well,
But
when this eventually airs, your email will be up there, so folks can get in touch with you and talk about the books you've read and the books you recommend. And one of the books I recommend that appraisers read is Green Eggs and Ham,
love it.
because that contains a whole lot of philosophy about the need for an understanding not only how to change, but the benefits of changing. And the thing is, you can read it in 5 minutes. So, uh, so we've got the robe. We've got again deep. It wasn't deep thought. What was it?
Deep work.
Deep work. So we got the robe, we got deep work, and we got green eggs and ham. Okay, excellent. Now,
Another good one on that topic is interesting because I just read Green Eggs and Ham to my daughter last night. We read it pretty often, actually, my oldest daughter. So a great pick. I love the end of how he finally in the end he's like, I do like green eggs and ham. So maybe you
I
will like some of these tech tools.
I do like them. I do like them, Sam. I am. Yeah, that's a great ending. Okay, now
Oh, I seem to have lost you.
coming at you, unrehearsed. You're unprepared. Okay, all right. Question number one: what led you to real estate appraisal, and why did you listen to that call?
Great question. Great question. So number one, I am a second generation appraiser, like many of us. My father started the business in the early 80s, and my father's story is an incredible one, too. Was an Army drill sergeant, tank operator. Then he came out of the Army, was back in the factory. We were living in a trailer park, not a nice trailer park, just a trailer park. He became a postman in the city of Lake Geneva, where he met an appraiser who trained him, and then he started his own business and created work for several appraisers who all earned incomes for their family. When I graduated high school, I was supposed to go play some football. I found a different route to play football, but I was supposed to go to college to play some football. But my brother at the time had already joined the family company and was driving a new Corvette, had his own house. And I thought, well, I'm not going to go to college when I could go accomplish that. So that called me into the industry basically for the financial gain of it in the beginning of my life.
Okay, so you said, all right, this looks like a great way to make a living. So the call was, okay, I'm 18 years old, I'm out of high school, I want to progress. So here is a good way to do that without having to spend $1 zillion going to law school or medical school or dental school or whatever like that. Okay, now you have a niche, which is LED or green appraising. Let's talk about that for a little while. Again, why that niche? What called you to that particular end of appraising?
Okay, that's a great another question. So one of the mentors that I had in the previous job was Tom Unizzo. I mean, that man's incredible. His wealth of knowledge was incredible. So I love Tom Unizzo. I worked a lot with him to just gain some skill sets. Um, so on that path, I wanted to go get the SRA, was one of the things I wanted to accomplish. Still on my target list, just tough to find the clock right now, but still on my target list. And so I took the green courses, which is part of the preliminary course. You had to pick three courses to take. So those were the three I picked. And so I got a chance to, watch Sandy Adamatis kind of work her way through it. Woody Finchman has been another great person to kind of listen to when it comes to this type of stuff. And so I just was reading a lot about it. And I was realizing that a lot of appraisers, and honestly, I just read a LinkedIn post the other day from somebody who said, in every report, I just put this boilerplate comment in about solar panels. He tried to argue that it wasn't boilerplate, but it was pretty clear it was a boilerplate. Like, listen, they don't have any value in our market, XYZ. And it was like, if you're adding that comment in every report, it's boilerplate. You're not researching it. And so I was curious, like, what is the impact? Because in Wisconsin, we always say, like, listen, what can solar panels be worth in Wisconsin? We don't have a lot of sun. So I was interested in it. So I started chasing it down. And it just kind of led me to get the designation because, you have the knowledge, you might as well take the one test and get the designation and you can use it. And it's allowed me to get into some groups of some people who are, deep into this stuff with high air quality, solar energy. And so it's been really nice to just gain that knowledge and get another group of individuals who are at the top of their game and are like trying to constantly move the green industry forward. Now, I will say this, when they came up with the wording green industry, they didn't do a great job marketing this. I like to look at it as high performance equipment for your home, right? Like, so if you want high air quality, go buy a really nice set of equipment for it. It doesn't have to be because it's green if you don't like that in your mind. A lot of that has been bullied over the years. And so a lot of people, when they hear green, just kind of turn their nose up. But the reality is, a lot of these instruments that you can attach to your house, let's say solar panels, instant hot water heaters, more high efficient HVAC systems, they're going to save you money in the long run. So, I mean, it's a benefit to you, to your home. And so it was just another niche that I could find here in Wisconsin. Not a lot of people had. And so that led me down that path and I've enjoyed it. And I really like analyzing and chasing down what the value of these components are.
So, given the niche that you've got, the green LED niche, you're able to provide services that those who don't have that niche, who haven't had that training, who haven't taken that exam, can't offer. Therefore, you mentioned the robe, and you mentioned, don't give him a reward every time he does something nice because he's supposed to do nice stuff. So your quote unquote reward, for lack of a better term, is the fact that you can help folks out that you couldn't help if you had not gone that route, correct?
100% that is correct. I also like to be able to help other appraisers. I'm very open. I'm not well, let me take that back. I'm a very competitive human being in a lot of aspects. So when I was in kind of the corporate world, I was very competitive, wanted to take market share under that. I left all that and I've left kind of the competitive me against other appraisers behind. And so I'm just very open to if an appraiser has a solar panel and they need help figuring it out, call me up on the phone, send me an email. I'm more than happy to walk you through some of the tools that we have available to us to determine value of the solar panels.
Okay, and your email address will be up on the screen. All right. Now, you recently, and by recently I mean within the last 3 months, just opened your own office, right?
I did. That is correct. That is correct.
Okay. Now you live in southeast Wisconsin. You're relatively close to Michigan. You're relatively close to Minnesota, et cetera, et cetera. Are you licensed in more than one state?
I am licensed in multiple states. That was kind of part of the prior job. I was doing some supervisory work, just helping appraisers in the company in different areas. And sometimes they wanted me to sign as a supervisor, so I got some different certifications in some other states.
Okay. Now, given the fact that you are licensed, I probably ought to say certified in multiple states, has that opened doors for you that would not have been opened otherwise?
So I've had some opportunities since I've left the other job. And I'm open for other opportunities. Obviously, everybody's going to listen to opportunities, so it has opened some opportunities for me. I've always been interested in being independent, doing the process from start to finish by myself. When I worked for my father, he did a lot of the same stuff where somebody would accept the order, somebody would schedule it, and typically my mother would do all that stuff. And so we'd have a lot of the different steps done. We had a person doing a lot of the research on the comps and give us packets. And so I just was really interested in the building of the business for myself from start to finish, which I have accomplished now, and I'm doing well. I know a lot of appraisers out there talking about there's not a lot of work, and I will say that that's unfortunate because there is a lot of work out there. It's most likely that your profiles aren't great. Call me if you ever want to discuss that more. I can give you some guidance on that kind of stuff, on kind of how the AMCs work in terms of rating you and things of that nature. I'm deep drilled into that a lot. And so yeah, and so right now, independence is best for me with all the kids and the home life responsibilities that when you're a manager of other people, which I was, in my opinion, in order to do that job well in this industry, you have to be available, and you have to kind of be available 24/7, right? Because you don't know when that appraiser is going to work on that assignment. Maybe he's typing at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and maybe he's hitting a hurdle and he doesn't know how to get past that hurdle at 9, 10 at night. Maybe that assignment needs to go out. Can you then wait to the next day to help him? If that is your responsibility, if that is your job duty. For me, that was a job duty, so I wanted to be available at all times. So it oftentimes made it hard, not impossible, but a little more tricky to focus on my home life balance. And so now I'm just more focused on being a father. It's kind of my top priority. I reprioritized, let's say that.
Father first, husband, and then appraiser. Excellent.
That's
All right.
your
Another
goal.
question. What keeps you awake at night about real estate appraisal, both the positive and the negative? And then the second part of the question is, how would you fix the negative?
Great question. What a great question. We have so many things right now that if you follow, a lot of LinkedIn or appraisal boards that you'll lose sleep. You're going to lose sleep, right? We have the AI coming on. We have bias, right? Which is big right now. And then we have low value in the environment right now. So a lot of things that are going to keep you awake as an appraiser in terms of earning an income. The one thing about AI and kind of the artificial neural networks, they're a ways away yet. They're a ways away. They're expensive to operate, and so they're a little ways away yet from them taking over. Can they take over? They absolutely could. In most cases, do what an appraiser could do within a reasonable percent of error, right? I mean, a reasonable enough assembly of what an appraiser does. Unfortunately, they are getting there. But we also have to understand that there's cold AI and there's warm AI. And so right now what we're worried about is the cold AI, right? The cold AI, the definition is basically AI that will replace humans. That's considered to be cold AI. We want to stay away from. Warm AI is the AI that's supposed to assist humans in doing their job. So warm AI is where we want to focus. The worry, of course, is going to be that the GSEs will find some reason to switch to the cold AI and say, we don't need appraisers anymore. We trust our models and we think they're as good as accurate as you are. And so we're going to replace you. Which is why, again, I'm back to talking about trying to get to growth mindsets, because you don't replace appraisers if appraisers are accurate all the time, are great, and are efficient. No reason to replace you as a profession if you're doing the job better than the AI can, or even if you're doing the job as well as the AI can. There's no reason to replace the human. Now, if we have an industry where a lot of our participants are not doing that, Then you got to start the question. You got to look, you got to put your feet in the GSE's boots once in a while, right? When these types of things come up. You obviously don't want to lose your job or your career. But if they're sitting there looking at their model and they're getting appraisals that are doing basically the same thing and they can serve their client better, it's a tough argument to win. Now, what I will say, I am of the mindset that just because you can do something doesn't mean we should do something. So with AI, it's not just appraisers that have to worry. Anything involving math, they're going to be better, or at least as good as humans are going to be. It's just going to happen. So again, why do we want to take, though, good jobs that can support families away from humans to turn them over to a computer so that what? A few individuals can make more money. The first time in the history of humanity, the top 3% of wealth sits with the 3% of the top earners, right? So if they take 97% of the rest of us and add up all of our wealth, we don't have more wealth than the top 3% of the people in the world. That's a problem. Why is that happening? Because they're finding more and more efficient ways to keep the money for themselves and not get it out to the rest of us as humans in good professional jobs. So I am a little worried that we're going to do this again, where we're going to say, listen, we don't need a blockbuster anymore because I can get my movies from Netflix streamed. I don't need an appraiser anymore because I can click a button and get what I believe to be as accurate of a value as I can from the appraiser. I don't believe that to be true. What I do believe to be true is when the appraiser marries the tech and those two entities come together, and the appraiser is very good at using the tech. I think Keith Wolf is very great at showing all of his data science stuff and where we can go with that. When those two things come together, you get a product that's superior to either thing by itself.
Yeah, Keith is very good at that. Let's talk about warm AI for just a second. And then I've got just one last question. You called warm AI the ability for an appraiser to work with AI to help the appraiser rather than to replace the appraiser. That, however, and tell me if I've got this totally wrong. That, however, implies that the appraiser knows how. So therefore, what is it the appraiser must do to embrace warm AI in basically what amounts to an effort not to be replaced by cold AI?
Great question. Great question. First, let's look at large language models, something like a ChatGPT, right? Very simple to use, very user friendly. You can just ramble into the text box on ChatGPT, 2 seconds worth of thought, and it will kick you out several paragraphs of very professional text that would have took you 30 to 45 minutes to kind of work your way through and write out. Of course, you want to read it because sometimes it misunderstands you, but you don't have to worry about punctuation. You don't have to worry about any of that. You can just randomly spit out your thoughts. Comp 1 is this, comp 2 is that, comp 3 is this, and then it will write a very nice, well-written thing. Saves you a lot of time. I posted the other day, and I like to take the property sales history, and I like to drop that into the chat box on ChatGPT and ask it to give me a sales history comment. It'll write a 2-paragraph, very well written out thing, and all I had to do was ask it to do it, and it's done. You can also teach it things. I've taught it how to write reconciliation comments the way I want them written based on prompts that I give it. I've used it to write E&O comments, the E&O errors, line net gross variation. So a lot of the just text writing, right? The amount of typing that you have to do, you can minimize and gain time and get a superior looking report. 2, the amount of modeling tools out there is incredible right now, right? I personally have been using Synapse by Spark, but I love GandySoft. Michael Gandy was my first guest on a working lunch when I was doing working lunches for my prior job. The working lunches, we brought in guests and I interviewed them, kind of like you're doing here for just our company wide, so we could all gain knowledge together. Michael Gandy's tool is incredible. I hear Solomon's is awesome. I've heard great things about that. And I believe Aloft has a toolkit that a lot of people also like. I'm using Synapse right now, honestly, because it was the cheapest one out of the bunch. And so cost was a player for me. And it also has a feature where it will write the comment out for you. So time, again, saved, efficiency gained. These tools help you support your adjustments, and it moves us away from just throwing the $20 square foot adjustment in there. When you take a little time to look at like, okay, what is this telling me? Now, modeling is not perfect, so it's not going to give you the answer It gives you a range of opportunities, a range of supported adjustments. Remember, we have to reach reasonable, supported, and credible. The way I like to look at that is reasonable is just based on obvious experience. If you're doing a $100,000 appraisal and the model kicks out that a bathroom's worth $100,000, that can't be reasonable, right? Because it can't, the whole other site, the whole house is structured, the value can't just be the bathroom, so that adjustment can't be correct. So you move it around to that. You then reach reasonable, right? Maybe it's $10,000 a bathroom to $20,000. That makes sense. Now you have supported by the tool, right? You have reasonable because you made it reasonable. It's supported because the tool is using recognized methods in the industry to support the adjustment. And then credible is the simply application of that in your sales comparison approach, right? What balanced out your adjusted sale price is the best? Was it the 10,000 or was it the $20,000 bathroom? Just what brought you closer to balance? And that brings you credible. That's how I like to think about it when I'm in the process or when I'm teaching trainees that I was teaching for a while, is you have to hit all three things, right? And so these tools help do that. Now, don't get me wrong, if you were doing it the correct way before and you were, diving into the MLS and you were looking up paired sales and you were doing group pairing, you were doing all that, great. You were doing it, that's great. But that's going to take a lot of time that this now gets rid of and you gain some efficiency. But again, we only see the granular level, right? So I'm not doing that. I do everything. I research and I come up with everything. My colleagues that I work with all research everything and do it. But the GSEs with the 30,000-foot view are saying, as an industry, we're not all doing that. They're still seeing $20 a square foot adjusted on every single report that you turn in. And so that's a problem. And so we need to move away from that. And the tool will at least help your brain start to function in that manner.
One last question, if I may, please. If you could change something about real estate appraisal, what would it be and why that particular aspect of real estate appraisal?
I don't think I would change anything. I mean, let's talk about this. We sit on an industry that gives us freedom of schedule, right? If I don't want to go do an inspection on a Tuesday because my daughter's this Friday, as a matter of fact, they have a Christmas pageant, right? I'm not putting anything on my calendar for Friday. Does every human being have that opportunity? No. A lot of people have to put in for PTO. Maybe they're out of PTO. Maybe they're not going to get paid to go see the Christmas. We don't have that problem. We have total freedom of schedule to do whatever it is you want to do, right? We have an industry where we have a ton of tools and tech. It's very exciting right now if you can remove your fixed mindset and say, listen, I'm going to go growth mindset. I'm going to check out some of these tools, some of this tech, and I'm going to have a little fun. I'm just going to start playing with some of this stuff. It's a lot of fun. We also have a very well-paying industry. I know there's interest. Of course, there's the stories of like, all right, the AMC took 1,000 and gave the appraiser $100. Sure, that happens on occasion, I'm sure, and that's disappointing, right? But a lot of us are being paid, $400 or $500 an assignment. That's a really nice payday for what we do. I get to go out. I get to talk to human beings when I'm at their house. I love interacting with other people at their homes. I get some windshield education time, right? I can put on an audio book while I'm driving my car. I get some peace and quiet, some therapy session in my driver's seat. I don't know how you could improve the industry besides the fact that we need to get rid of some of the scary stuff, right? Like, let's stop talking about AI taking us over. Let's listen. I'm not a fool to believe that bias. I don't strongly, let me get this right. I don't strongly believe that bias is a huge thing in appraisal. I'm not buying into it as a thing. I've read a lot of the stuff. I've listened to a lot of stuff. I don't think it's rampant. But I also don't know every single appraiser under the sun. So I'm certainly not going to say there's maybe not some person out there who's doing that. I will say this. If you are an appraiser who is going to a home and seeing the race of a human being, and then you are determining when you come back to come in low, go jump off a mountain because we don't need you. We don't want you. That's ridiculous. I assume and I know that most, if not all, appraisers are hardworking, unbiased, honest professionals. And that's a hard stop, period. Again, if you're opposite of that, please leave our industry. Please go do something else. We don't want you.
Thank you. Dustin, I appreciate it. This has been most enlightening. Thank you for your candor, your honesty. And again, we congratulate you and your wife on the pending birth of your son. So, Dustin, your email address has been up before, but please give it to us again.
Sure. So it's my initials, which is DAS appraisal firm at gmail.com. The DAS is kind of fun. Just quick last thing. DAS is my initials, Dustin Andrew Svendsen, but it's also my wife maybe come on board with me. So then it's Dustin and Samantha appraisal firm. Or it could be my son's name is Austin, my current son, my 17-year-old son. If he decides to come, it could be Dustin and Austin Svendsen. So it has a lot of little mixed meanings there, but DAS worked fine enough for a little local appraisal firm.
DAS appraisal firm at gmail.com. Excellent. Dustin, again, I thank you. I'm sure some folks will get in touch with you. And I want to thank you again for your time. I want to thank you for your professionalism. I want to thank you for we had to reschedule this various times, and I was having audio troubles this morning. So, Dustin, thank you for your patience, and thank you for putting up with that. And most people will hear this after the holidays, but I will wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year anyway.
Merry Christmas to you, my friend. And I'm very grateful for your time. Thanks for having me on. I feel like I finally reached the pinnacle of the industry. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, everybody. Thanks. We appreciate it. You need to get in touch with Dustin. It's DAS appraisal firm at gmail.com. Need to get in touch with me. It's Tim at theappraisersadvocate.com. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.